Hello everyone, welcome to Insights webinar. Today we have Kodan Mishra from Laos. So I will pass on the stage to him. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Albert. Hey everyone, myself Kundan Mishra. I'm working in roles as lead product manager, and today I'll be taking you through uh, management interview journey, various aspects, what is expected out of a candidate, and then how can you practice it, and then eventually ace your interview. So let's get started. Uh, just to set the context, I'll be first taking you through my journey to product management, how I started my career and then landed into product management. What are the roles that I went through in my career, and then of course we will talk about product manager interview process, uh, uh, various kinds of questions, what is expected out of a candidate, and how can you approach those questions. And I might be talking about a couple of examples from my experience which can help you. And of course we'll talk about a couple of frameworks that you can use in order to make sure that your answers fits, and you basically ace, uh, or basically give the best shot at the interview. And we will talk about resources, like what are the available resources that you can look for and practice. And then I want to spend more time on Q&A session, because honestly, if you go online, there are n number of sources. I mean, there are n number of blogs and videos available on YouTube, which you can basically browse and can know about what it takes, what kind of questions are being asked, right? But I think I want this session to be more engaging. So please ask your questions, stop me wherever you want to, and basically we can basically answer your questions. Yeah. So I started my career as a software engineer at MediaTek. I did that for around 5 years, building mobile applications, um, specifically Bluetooth and Java applications. And back then in 2014, when I was leading Bluetooth team for MediaTek wearable devices, which was primarily smartwatch, I got a chance to work very closely with customers, marketing, and product teams. Smartwatch was a really new concept at that time, and we were doing it for the first time. So I got a chance to engage within different stakeholders, and I really got excited. And as an engineer, I always used to receive, and we were following waterfall model, so we were always receiving those mammoth documents, and we were just supposed to implement stuff. But this was a chance where I actually got a chance to talk to customers and figure out why something needs to be built the way it is asked for. So I got excited. I wanted to work more closely to the customers, and I started for looking out opportunities. Again, in Delhi NCR, a lot of startup events keeps on happening. So through one of these events called Startup Weekend, which happened in at Times office in Noida, I participated in, along with some other members. Uh, I founded a Angutha Chap, which was basically a attendance tracking application for government schools. So we got a lot of traction. I was from a hardware background, so we knew using MediaTek platform, we could build something like that. And we talked to a couple of people from industry. We got a little bit funding from Coca-Cola also, and we took it ahead. But later, because of some reasons in the hardware, we could not take it ahead. But that was my first stint at doing something of my own. And then after that, I never looked back. I kept on participating in these different events in NCR, and through one of these events, I got a chance to work in MobiQuick. Now here I was. I had worked 5 years in a big MNC, and I was doing extremely well. But at the same time, I want to do something of my own, and I had this opportunity of joining a startup, working in a small setup, and learning and basically transitioning into the product side. So I had expressed my interest to the interviewer that I want to move to product, and then I was welcome. And I thought, this is now or never chance. So I left my job, and a comfortable job, and I joined startup. At the same time, I also completed my executive program from IIM Lucknow Noida campus, and then I moved into product side. So I had worked for companies in different industry. Like Fame was a live video streaming application. At the Luxury Closet, I built applications for warehouse management system, order management. At Tally, we built a big data platform for our Tally customers, basically offering them data as a service or analytics as a service, and OYO is a to travel domain. So I was fortunate to have had this opportunity to work in these different companies across different domains, and I got a chance. I got really lucky also to got a chance to work in these different domains and learn a lot. Also, I kept on doing side projects. So this is my recent side project called productseals.com, where I'm trying to mentor upcoming product folks, or I'm also consulting startups who are at different stage of their product life cycle. So through these side projects also, and we'll come back to this, that using a side project, how you can also sharpen your product management skills, parallel to the work that you are already doing, or maybe you are in college, you can have some side projects, and you can sharpen your product skills. So we'll come back to that. All right. So product interview process now. Uh, from my experience, more or less in any product interview, you will be it will be divided to these 5 or 6 buckets. It will start with your introduction. Then you will be asked to talk about a project that you had recently done in past. What are the problems you went through, right? What is the impact that you created by working on that project? Then the third type of question would be product design or strategy question, and we'll discuss each of these in detail in coming slides, right? Where in strategy or design question, you'll be given a vague problem, like for example, design Ola for blind, right? So how do you approach that problem? After that, there's a fourth bucket, which is a behavioral question, where they will give you a random scenario and ask you how would you approach in that particular scenario, right? So basically, they want to judge your thought process. We will discuss these questions in detail, and then of course, guesstimation questions, which basically judges how you break down a complex problem into different buckets, and how do you approach them. And then there are also case study problems. All right, so let us get into it directly. So introduction pitch. Now, I'll talk about the mistakes that I have done in my experience. So I used to have this common introduction, and I would go and I would just blabber it, right? Until the moment I realized that it is not working. And I realized that it is not just only about walking somebody through your educational or professional skills. It is not only about what you have been doing in past, or what your role and responsibilities are. It is more than that. It has to be, and especially for product management, it has to be about what motivates you and why you want to join product management, right? Your introduction pitch has to have this information, right? And specifically for experienced folks, you need to talk about impact numbers, right? I mean, you just cannot say that I worked at OYO in, let's say, vacation rental business, and I built product for customer service. No, right? You need to talk about the impact that you have created. Impact could be in terms of revenue that you generated, or let's say cost that you saved. Even if you have not thought in your previous roles, you need to maybe whatever you're doing right now, you need to think in these terms, so that you need to you can talk about the impact that you have created in the current company, right? And after that, you also need to customize your pitch. Now, it is like so in a way you are also a product, right? So whenever you go and talk about yourself, it's like you're selling yourself, right? So you cannot have same pitch for let's say a startup versus an MNC, right? So you need to research what the company is looking for, right? What is the GD about? What kind of product manager they need, right? Maybe what stage the company is in. Are they looking for a growth PM? Are they looking for a data PM? And then you need to look at your experience and figure out what are those relevant projects that you have done, right? And you have to customize your pitch so that you highlight and kind of introduce hooks. So introducing hooks is about you give the meat to the PM that this is what I have done in my previous experience. It is very certain that the next question is bound to be from your your experience that you have done. So introducing hooks means you tell interviewer that for example, if the interview if the opening is for, let's say, operations product manager, right? You need to tell in a way that, let's say, for example, if you were able to improve turnaround time, right? You need to talk about it, because it is very highly likely that I if I'm hiring for a operations team, I will ask how you improve the turnaround time. So introducing hooks means that you practice it well, the project that you are going to pitch, and then you introduce it so that interviewer will ask. So in a way, you lead the interview. The interviewer doesn't lead, but you lead the interview by talking what you are saying in the introduction pitch, and that's why it's very critical, right? And then, yes, last but not the least, practice it. Practice it 10 times, 15 times yourself. Talk to a friend, tell them this is how you are introducing about yourself. Take feedback and again improve, right? But trust me, uh, as they say, within first 7 to 8 seconds, interviewer makes his mind whether he's interested in you or not. So you have to win this, and every interview starts with introduction pitch. So that's why it's critical. Next is about storytelling. So this is about your past experience, right? So more often than not, they would ask you to share an example from recent product that you have built in your past, what challenges you faced, and then what was the impact. Now, before you actually jump on to answering this question, I mean, think for a while. Why are they asking me this question? What are they looking for? So what they are looking for is, what is your product discovery process, right? Let's say, for example, if I am a business owner and I come to you, again, let's take Oyo's context. Let's say we are launching Oyo in US, right? I come to you and say, hey, Kundan, we have to launch Oyo vacation homes in US, right? And this has to be done by, let's say, next 3 weeks, right? What is your approach, right? What kind of questions do you ask, right? How do you target your customers, right? So this is what they're looking for, that whatever example that you take when you talk about it, what was the discovery process? How do you think, what was your way of thinking, right? How you broke the problem into different pieces, right? Whether your thought, I mean, whether you started with customer or not, because this is very important. Everybody talks about customer obsession, user first approach. So you have to talk about it. Yeah, I mean, you cannot afford not to talk about this. So for example, in this particular case, or maybe I'll take the favorite example that I take, uh, that you have to start with customer, that who the customer is, right? See, the question that I told you, right? Launching Ola for a blind person, right? So this is more of an application, right? Or more of a solution. But what is the problem, right? So you have to talk about blind person first, right? What are their motivations? What are their challenges? And then you have to devise a solution afterwards. You don't have to start with the solution. So this is very important. And then they are also looking for how. So see, at times we feel that we are the one who is going to give the right solution. It is not like that. How do you collaborate with stakeholders? By stakeholders, I mean not just end users, but also let's say marketing team or operations team, right? Customer service team. So how do you collaborate with everyone in the ecosystem, right? And other than that, also they are also looking for a storytelling skill. Now this is something which I learned the hard way. So I used to answer this question, and I would talk about a lot of things, right? And I would not reach anywhere, right? And so that's why storytelling is critical. And I'll talk about a couple of framework that you can use so that you can be very crisp, right? And the last thing is they're also looking for the impact. So whatever example you take, what was the impact? So how you can approach this is, you can refer to some frameworks like STAR framework, which talks about situation that was given to you, task or goal that you had to achieve, action that you took, and then result. Right. So STAR framework is very common, which you can also apply in many other contexts. Right. So using STAR, you can actually talk about the right from the problem to solution and impact in very customized, I mean, in very crisp and concise manner, right? And like I said, you need to start with customer. You need to understand their gaps in their journey. After talking about their motivations and use cases, you have to analyze the gaps in their journey, and then using data points, you have to validate the hypothesis, right? Uh, uh, and then you have to think of, fine, I have a hypothesis now. How can I build an MVP? Right? How do you collaborate with engineering to come up with a solution? And then it doesn't end there. How do you measure it, right? And then what is the impact that you have created while you have solved this problem? And after that, also the second follow-up question is that what are the learnings from that project and how would you make it better, right? And trust me, it can be practiced. I have experienced myself that even though I had solved problems as product manager in past, I was not able to deliver this answer in a convincing manner, right? And I was fortunate to have friends who would help me, correct me at wherever I was wrong. So let me give you an example, so that maybe you would be able to relate. For example, let's say I joined this company, XYZ company, and the CEO and head of operations told me to uh, uh, move everyone on dashboards. So this company is a marketplace, and entire logistics happens on Google Sheet, right? So head of operations and CEO told me to move everyone on dashboard. Now I had recently joined as a product manager. I had done I went through product training, and I had a lot of questions in my mind, right? Like why logistics team is not using the dashboard, which is supposed to be working. So I had to figure out that. But at the same time, I also needed to understand why CEO or operations head of operations want logistics to move to dashboard. So we were doing 50 orders a day, right? So potentially that could have been managed on Google Sheet. Maybe that's why operations team was doing it on Google Sheet. But what is it that CEO or head of operations is looking for, right? Why they want them to use dashboard? These were the thoughts that were running into my mind, and then I went to CEO and head of operations and asked more questions, and I realized what the problem statement, the underlying problem was that there was no visibility of the funnel, right? For example, the number of orders you have received today or day before yesterday, how many of them are stuck in the delivery funnel? Like for example, how many have been picked, packed, or shipped, right? So the visibility of the funnel was not there. That was the problem statement, right? And then they also wanted to improve turnaround time. So that was the underlying problem that they wanted to solve, right? And moving them to a dashboard is a solution, which I understand. So once I had understood, one part of the problem, that why they want people to move to dashboard, I went to my stakeholders, logistics team, and I spent around a week in logistics to figure out, their entire way of working, like how they receive the item, how they put it on dashboard, how they pick, pack, and ship, right? And how I kind of mimicked, I shadowed their operations, and then I came up with these huge sheet of 10, 20 white sheets where I drew entire workflow to understand the gap between system and what was happening on ground. Now, another realization that I had was dashboards. We had those dashboards, but they were not being used. The reason was those dashboards were only catering to happy scenarios. So this was my research work. I was able to figure out that why the team is not using dashboard. There were a lot of broken workflows. There were a lot of workflows which were not built on the dashboard, right? So that was the second underlying problem statement. The third problem that I realized after talking to customer service, logistics, and accounting, who were my stakeholders, was that all these departments were working in silos, right? So now what I want to tell you through this example is, look at the way I solved this problem, right? I started with why, right? I went on to whoever has requested the solution, that what was the underlying problem. How did I engage with stakeholders, right? What kind of research I did to figure out what was the underlying problem, right? Rather than just jumping into the solution. Fine, I mean, let's make sure they're using dashboard or not. No. So we have to understand, we have to start with why, understand the customer, understand why they are not using what they're not using. And then after that, it was just a matter of sort of figuring out what are the missing workflows, what are the broken workflows, and then doing some sort of API integration or automations, figuring out what is the solution. And then we could do impact versus effort analysis to sort the list, and then basically implemented the solution and moved everybody in the dashboard. But it doesn't end there. I talked about impact, right? So you have to talk about impact. So the example that I took, it cannot end at saying that I was able to move everybody in the dashboard. No. What was the impact? So the impact was, we had a clear visibility of the funnel, of turnaround time at each section, right? Second, we were able to improve that from 4 days to 1 day for orders which were placed from the same location, right? So that was the huge win of doing this exercise. We were able to save 2 man days for logistics and customer service each. That was another huge impact. So you have to talk about impact. So I mean, this is the example that maybe I take. Maybe you can look into your experience in past, and then you can figure out these stories, and then you have to set it in this structure, so that you start with why, you start with the problem that you were trying to solve, and then how you approached, right? And then what sort of collaboration you did with various stakeholders, and then how you improved it, right? So it is it's like build, measure, and tune. You have to consistently improve. And yeah, last but not the least, you have to practice it. I mean, essentially it is storytelling, right? So you have to tell it in a way that you keep the interviewer engaged, right? So you have to practice it. There's no second thoughts on that. Okay, second type of questions are design and strategy questions. Now, like I said, right? I mean, they would give you very vague problem to solve, like design Uber for children, right? How would Google enter into real estate? Or they can also ask you, and this is very favorite question for interviewers, especially for product management, is what's your favorite product, and how would you improve it, right? So again, think, what are they looking for, right? What they're looking for is how well you handle ambiguity. Now, as a product manager, you have to be comfortable in dealing with ambiguity, because at times you will be given problems to solve where you will have no clue at all, right? That why is this a problem, right? For example, design Uber for children. Why is this a problem, right? So you have to be comfortable with ambiguity, and which is what they're looking for. They are also looking for how do you evaluate risks and trade-offs, right? I mean, let's say that I am CEO of Uber and you are a newly hired PM, and then I ask you to design something, and you actually solve it without analyzing risks and trade-offs. And I mean, anything can go wrong, right? I mean, you can take a lot of engineering resources and build it, but you have not done risk analysis well. Everything will go for a toss, right? So they are looking for how conscious you are, while analyzing risks and trade-offs. I mean, what happens if I build it, or what goes wrong if I build it, right? So you have to do that kind of trade-off analysis before actually building it. They are also looking for your structured way of attacking this problem. uh, Again, how do you start with customer, what kind of data points you look for while solving the problem, and again, how do you collaborate with stakeholders, right? So these 3-4 points you'll find common in most of the slides that I have, and because this is what a PM do in day in and day out, right? So how can you approach this problem, right? You need to start by asking clarifying questions in order to resolve the ambiguity, right? I mean, design Uber for children, right? I mean, you need to ask. I mean, let's say, like, are we talking about a specific geography, right? Are we talking about specific age group of children, right? So you need to ask clarifying questions in order to make sure whatever interviewer has assumption in his mind, you are on the same page. That's one. Second, interviewer wants you to ask these questions, right? Because then only you would be able to narrow down the vague problem to a specific point which you can actually solve. After that, more or less the structure is going to be same. You have to start with customer, you have to understand their motivation, what do they really care about, and then what is the problem that we are trying to solve, right? It has to start with why, right? And then how do you structure the problem, right? I mean, what kind of hypothesis you come up with, right? What sort of data points you use to validate that hypothesis, and what sort of success metrics do you see in order to check whether the solution will be success or not, right? And then of course you need to mention assumptions while you're solving the problem, because you are solving a big problem, right? So you need to be in confidence with the interviewer that you are solving the right problem. So ask clarifying questions, mention your assumptions, and then start with user, and spend more time in thinking about what is the problem you're trying to solve, right? And then you can create, I mean, you can draw some sort of customer journey map, that okay, for example, this is the user persona, and then this is how they are doing it right now. Maybe Uber for blind, right? So this is how blind people are booking cabs right now. I mean, with the help of maybe a helper, right, or a parent, right? Then what are the gaps in this journey? What are the dependencies? What are the highs and lows, right? Once you have this analysis of customer journey map, then you can come up with a solution hypothesis. And but even coming up, I mean, that is not enough. You need to talk about data points. I mean, you can do some sort of customer surveys, right, in order to know it better, right? And then you talk about building a MVP, right? Any questions so far? Anyone? Should I, Albert? Any questions so far? Let me just check the chat. Okay, I will talk about structure in coming slides. All right, so next is estimation questions. Now, I'm assuming most of you would be familiar about this. That you usually you are asked to guesstimate, let's say number of shoes that Flipkart sells in a particular day, or Parle-G consumed in India. It could be anything. Cars running on the road right now. So again, what interviewer is looking for is your problem solving skills, and again, how do you break the problem into sub problems, and then basically what is this, how structurally you think about solving the problem, right? Because this is something which you will be doing day in and day out in your job as a product manager, right? I mean, of course nobody will come to you and ask you how many Parle-G is consumed, but this approach will be used while you are solving problem in real life. So again, there are 4 steps for estimation questions, and you can apply it to any question, right? You always remember you have to start with asking clarifying questions again here, because let's say car running on road right now. What cars are we talking about? Is it private car or Olas and Ubers that we're talking about, right? So you have to ask clarifying questions so that you and your interviewer are on the same page, right? Any assumptions that your interviewer has or you have is clarified, right, to begin with, before you actually attack the problem. Now, after we have done that, The second approach is that you break the problem into smaller and easier pieces, right? Now, see, problem can be solved into multiple, any problem, right? These three or any estimation problem can be solved into a number of ways, right? So you have to break that into smaller pieces, right? Before you start solving, think about solution. So think about, let's say, number of uh, shoes sold online in Delhi, right? So you can start with, okay, what is Delhi's population, right? Maybe India's penetration of internet, right? So those are the cues that you can have in your mind, and then you can start, okay, high level, medium level, and from income group also you can narrow down the problem, that you can just below BPL population, you can just remove that. Maybe they will not buy online. That you need to take some assumptions, and you need to mention it, right? That what assumptions you are making, right? Then maybe on an average, how many people wear buy shoes, right? It can vary with men and women, right? So maybe you can take some sort of average, right? And then you can narrow down to a particular number. See, these kind of, you just Google it and you will see n number of ways to solve estimation problem, right? But just if we want to talk about the first problem, you can start with, just this is for example purpose. Like, you can start with population. Okay, 18 million Delhi's population. You can attack by income pyramid. Like I said, bottom 20% fallen below poverty line, so they won't buy online. Then you can also have another 20%. They can fall in low income group, and you can discount them, right? And then you can say, okay, fine. Remaining 60%, they have the tendency to buy online. So then you arrive at 72 lakh from 18 million. So you are the point that I'm trying to make is, and I'm not saying this is the right way to solve the problem. The only point that I'm trying to make is, you have to break the problem into sub parts, right? And this is the approach. Then you can talk about internet penetration, right? And then from 72 lakh, you can reach to 36 lakhs. And then you can say, fine, how many people transact online? You can take an assumption, let's say 10%. And trust me, interviewer is absolutely okay with your assumptions, right? So what you are trying to do is, you are basically moving forward by putting these assumptions, and which is what I'm trying to say in my next 2 points, right? So I'm talking about use estimations and judgment to solve the problem, and then consolidate to a final result, right? So there are no right or wrong answers in estimation questions. They are just looking for how are you breaking the problem into sub problems, and then what kind of assumptions you are taking, and then how you are moving forward to a consolidated result, right? And then this should be more of a conversation, right? So don't attempt this question that you will take 5 minutes, you'll think about everything, and then you'll go to interviewer. Take some time before you start solving this problem to structure your thoughts, but then have a conversation with the interviewer, that this is the approach that I'm taking, right? These are the assumptions that I'm taking. Trust me, interviewer is going to help you only, right? To move forward. So my suggestion would be to make this a more of a conversation, right, while you are attempting estimation questions. All right, case study questions. Now this is where you will be given a problem, and then maybe now case study questions could be that they would ask you to solve there and then in the interview, or it can happen that they can give you a problem like how would you reduce wait time of checkout queue in retail store, and you can take 2-3 days to solve that case study. Now again, they are not looking for anything out of the box. We have talked about these things. They are again looking for your problem discovery process. How do you think about the problem? Whether you start with customers or not, right? What kind of data points you use, right? How do you collaborate with? It could be collaboration could be with feedback that you receive from customers. It could be with internal collaboration with different stakeholders, right? You can talk to your customer service team, right? You can talk to marketing team, you can talk to business team, right? To sort of get more data, so that you are able to, before you actually start solving that problem, right? So this is what they're looking for. So the approach here should be that you should make sure that the problem that you are solving is the right problem, because more often than not, and it has happened with me also a lot of time in interview, that you end up, the moment you are given a case study problem, you have a tendency to solve the problem. So it happens that you end up solving the wrong problem, and this happens in real life also, right? So that is why these questions are really important, because you need to really know that what is the problem and what is not the problem that you have to solve, right? And how can you do that? I mean, you can only do that by talking to customers, right? I mean, and it's very human. I mean, at times we have our own bias. I mean, we are given a problem and we will just assume that this is the problem that we have to solve, and then we'll jump on to solving it. But that has to be avoided at all cost. So that can only happen when you have a conversation about the problem with customers, right? And then after that, more or less, the way to solve this problem will be same as we have discussed in the previous slide, right? You have to start with users. You have to understand what they are doing right now, what is the current customer journey map, right? So I mean, you can always draw a customer journey map on, let's say, a piece of paper or a board, right? And then try to figure out what are the frustrations, right, that customers are going through, right? While let's say that any problem that you are given, right? And then you can think about, find the highs and lows, or the frustrations, right? Now you can come up with hypothesis, what kind of solutions you potentially can build, but you have to use data points to validate that before you actually jump on solution, right? And then how do you build MVP, right? What sort of trade-off analysis do you do, right? I mean, you need to think also about impact versus effort. How do you prioritize? You can think of 10 solutions, right? Which solution do you pick to solve, and why, right? We'll definitely talk about structures or framework that you can use. But this is what, again, interviewer is looking for, even again in case study problems. And you also cannot avoid not talking about success metrics, because this is the key thing. I mean, how would you measure what you built, right? Or should you build anything that you cannot measure? So these are the questions that you need to contemplate, right, while you are thinking about solutions. All right, next set of bucket is behavioral questions. So now here, again, you will be given a random situation or a hypothetical situation. For example, or maybe interviewer will want to know that, how you dealt in a particular situation and how you responded. For example, please share examples of projects which you hated or enjoyed the most and why, right? Projects where you showed leadership skills. What are you passionate about, and what motivates you, and why, right? I mean, you really need to think about these questions, because part of the job for interviewer is also to understand you as a person, right? That how do you respond to when things are going south, right? For example, how do you communicate if a project is called off? I mean, you might have been working on a project along with engineers, let's say, for past 2 months, and suddenly business priority change, and you have to communicate this to engineering. How do you do that? Now these problems are really important, and you have to do this in real life. So they would want to know that what sort of how do you communicate, right? How do you so see, as a PM, you don't nobody reports to you, right? But you command the respect, right? So how do you motivate the team? Those things are really important, and that's why these questions are also there. And especially in companies like Amazon, I mean, most of their interview, or 90% of their interview is on leadership principles, right? And such questions, I mean, they only judge you on such questions. And yeah, so I mean, the only way you can answer these questions is, again, you need to look back. uh, I mean, you can find a number of questions online. You just have to sit down, look at your resume, think about your past experience, and then think about how can you connect. It See, at times what happens is, uh, I mean, you can create 4 or 5 stories, and then you can actually fit those 4 or 5 stories to all these behavioral questions, right? But you have to prepare 4 or 5 stories really well. Yeah. Okay, now comes the framework. So we so the first bucket that we talked about was storytelling, right? It can happen that you can take an example and you start talking about it, and then you maybe you can, I mean, it can happen that you describe situation a lot, or maybe you only talk about actions, right, but you don't give a context. So as an interviewer, I am expecting a crisp answer, right, that what was the situation, what was to be done, what did you do, and then what was the result, right? So star framework really helps you. And how I would recommend you to practice this is, create those 4 5 stories and then write it down and create 4 buckets, STAR, and then write it down and then practice it. And then maybe you can take a friend and then ask them to sit, or maybe if you have a product manager friend, well and good, tell them about these stories, right, and then take their feedback. That is the only way where you can improve, right? And this is critical because I've seen a lot of friends who are absolutely good at what they do, but they are not able to concisely uh, uh, communicate this in the interview. So that's why star framework is really helpful, and it can be practiced. It's nothing rocket science, right? Now design and strategy questions, you can practice it by design thinking framework or practicing hoop model. Now, no, these are not something that I can cover in 1 or 2 minutes. Maybe, I mean, they qualify for another full workshop. But in essence, they tell you how to solve a problem. And trust me, it's nothing that we have not talked about in previous slides. It again starts with who is the customer that we are talking about. Any problem that is given to you, who is the customer that we are talking about, right? Who is the user? What is the current journey map, right? What are the pain points? Why do we have to solve this, right? So this is how you need to start a problem. Then you think about current journey map, you think about pain points, frustrations or gaps in the journey map, and then you look at data points, right? And then how can we come up with solution hypothesis, right, to improve the existing problem, right? And hoop model again is talked about. How can we? So basically, hoop model is other than designing solution, it is also about designing something which you consistently use, right? So it talks about how can you introduce triggers, right? How do you incentivize a customer so that they consistently come back and use your solution, right? So these are behavioral framework that you can introduce in your products, right? Read about it. I mean, there are a lot of good books on. There's a book called Hoot. I've talked about it in resources. So it tells you how can you build products and change behavior of the customer, right? Then there are frameworks called circles, which basically again it talks about comprehend the situation, understand the pain point, what are the alternatives that are available, right? List solutions, prioritize it, right? And then that's how you approach the problem, right? So it's nothing different than what we have covered, but they all, I mean, you need to spend some time on these framework, practice it. Maybe there are a lot of workshops for these frameworks where you can attend and solve the problem. And then for success matrix, this is Google's framework of called heart, where whatever you build, how do you measure it, right? So it talks about happiness, engagement, adoption, retention, and task success, which is basically how do you measure whatever problem you're solving. You might have done analysis, you might have come up with the solution, right? But how do you measure it? So you break them down into these buckets, and then you come up with these metrics, right? Maybe we can cover framework in some other session someday later. So, see, the good thing about this is that there are a lot of resources which are available online, using which you can practice. Right, there are a lot of communities Product School, Mind the Product, right? Women in Product, Silicon Valley Product. These are really amazing product communities from where you can learn. There are a lot of podcasts which are available, right? There are amazing books on and articles on product management. I mean, you must read Cracking the PM Interview and Decode and Conquer. And then there are a lot of other books also, right? And then do read about these blogs. And then there are a lot of mentorship programs also which are happening, so you can basically try them. All right, I think now we can go to Q&A sessions.
Yeah, Kudan, just interrupting. Can you please take some of the questions that are there in the chat?
Yeah, sure. All right, I think somebody talked about your favorite product question. If I'm not wrong, I would like to start with that. Yeah, tell me about your favorite product. See, this is a pet question, right? And what somebody wants to, I mean, as an interviewer, I want to understand, whether how do you think about a product, right? Why you like a particular product, and what is it that you see different, right? Than what it is doing as compared to other competitors. For example, LinkedIn. I mean, my favorite, the example that I take is LinkedIn. Now, you have to start with, I mean, you don't start with, I like LinkedIn because you can easily find jobs and stuff like that. No, take a step back, right? So the way I approach this is, LinkedIn is a professional network, right, where like-minded people meet. They learn about what's going on in the industry, about latest trends. And it just not only helps you find the job. I mean, you can also know the details of the company, right? You can know the people who are working there. I mean, you can look at their profile, right? So it gives you a sense that what kind of company you're going to work in, right? And that's why it solves this problem so well that the competitors don't stand even near to it. For example, Naukri or Monster, they just talked about JD, but LinkedIn goes much beyond that, right? So you have to, the point that I'm trying to make is, you can take a step back and talk about what the company is all about. What is the core value proposition of the company, or the favorite product, that whichever product that you have. It could be Netflix, it could be YouTube. So talk about the core value proposition of the product, right? And why you like it, right? And whatever you like, how well the product solves as compared to its competitors, right? Then the follow-up question is that, if you are a product manager, let's say for LinkedIn, what features will you build in it, and why, right? So I mean, this is a standard question, and you need to prepare for it, right? So take a step back, think about, have 2 3 products. I mean, it has happened to me. I mean, I've said LinkedIn, and interviewer said no, take some other example, right? So have two three favorite products, and think about why you like about it, right? What is it that you like about it, and how that particular product is doing better as compared to competitors, right? Think about the customers that it is targeting, right? And also try to think about, if you are a PM, how would you improve the experience of that particular product, right? So for example, I'll give you example, like for LinkedIn. The example that I used to take was, well, LinkedIn has a community of all these. LinkedIn has a professional network, right? But what I feel lacking is, this community of. Uh, uh, what I feel lacking is a community where somebody who has, let's say, for example, let's say the problem that Insights is trying to solve, or Product Star is trying to solve, right? Insights or Product Star is creating a community where people like you and me can come onto a platform and ask questions, right? We can take help from people who have been in industry, right? Ask doubts. I mean, practice, right? So this is something which is missing on LinkedIn. And then I said I would like to build it on LinkedIn, right? So I mean, so what I'm trying to tell you is that, know 3 or 4 favorite products that you would want to talk about, and then have some ideas that you would want to talk about, that you would want to build. And then please think about why you want to solve it, and then who are the users, what impact metrics you would be chasing if you have to solve this, right? If you have to ace that question. Okay. Once we bring up the feature based on pain point, do we run multiple rounds of validations? Is there any rule for this? Well, of course, yes. I mean, once you have once you have analyzed pain points and you have a solution hypothesis, again and again, I'm saying it is a hypothesis because you have to test it, right? So before you actually build it, you can actually look for data points to validate that this is the right problem that we are trying to solve, right? And then try building MVP, right? Again, it depends on the kind of product that you are working on, right? So try building MVP, and then you need to know the how will you measure success of that particular product, right? So the only rule for this is that you need to know the success metrics of what you're building. If you cannot measure something, you should not build it. That is the only rule that I would want to ask you to follow. Okay, which characteristics are most important for an aspiring PM? Uh, See, I think persona wise, I think you need to be, I mean, personally, I think one needs to be curious, right? One needs to be, uh, you know, um, uh, somebody who can collaborate with multiple stakeholders. See, product management is not something where you will get a complete clarity of job. You will get vague problems to work upon. So you need to be somebody who can be comfortable with ambiguity, but at the same time you also need to build very good relationship with different stakeholders, right, at the same time, because you cannot solve it alone. So you have to realize, I mean, at times you are not the one who knows what is the right solution, but you are more of a facilitator. So that's why I've been talking about structured thinking. So you are custodian of customer in the company, right? So you are paid to simplify the life of the customer, right? So the solution can come from anybody. So you can get into a workshop mode. You can collaborate with different stakeholders, and then better solution can come up. But important thing is that you should be good at collaboration. So I think 50% is about communication, collaboration, and rest 50% is about other mix of hard and soft skills. Okay, things to keep in mind while building a B2B enterprise product. Okay, so B2C and B2B are two different, problems to, and your focus area would differ when you are solving for an end user versus an internal customer. So, so let me take an example, right? I mean, when you are building, let's say, a product for customer service, right? What would decide the success of the product, right? You would not really think about, I mean, user experience does matter. How easy it is for customer service agents to, let's say, record the problem. It is important, but what is also, or what is more important, is the robustness of the platform, right? The availability of the platform. So for example, if you are, let's say, a data platform, and you are offering data as a service or analytics as a service to a third party, it could be a business person or it could be another application, right? So then in that scenario, the priorities would change, right? I mean, you would need to think more in terms of non-functional requirements. So more than functional requirements, you need to think in terms of what is the availability of the platform. How much, like, what should be the response time? What are the SLAs, right? So those are the lines or terms in which you need to think about a B2B enterprise product, right? So again, see, it's not different than what we have discussed previously. In this case, your customer is not end user. Your customer could be an application or a business user, right? So you need to again think what what matters to this business user, right? What are their motivations, right? And then you need to build the product, right? So the essence of product management is same, but maybe your success metric would change, right, when you are solving for a B2B versus a B2C product. uh, all right, how to handle storytelling in case of B2B organization where you are in a similar range of product with few specifications changing. uh, Good question. It happens. It happens a lot of time that you are building a product where maybe you are just improving the performance, right? But even then, storytelling is not about you have to create a fancy aura about what you are building. Storytelling is about how easily you are able to communicate what you are working on. I mean, why you need to pick this problem, right? So storytelling is about talking about the situation, why it is important to solve this problem, what needs to be done, right, to solve this problem, and then what is the impact. I mean, I'm sure you would not pick any problem because you have nothing to do, right? I mean, you want to know what is the needle that this problem will move, right? So I mean, even for B2B organization, even if you are improving performance, right, you can talk about it in a storytelling way, in the sense that you talk about the situation, you talk about why this problem is important, and then what is the metric it is going to move, right, and then what have you done to solve this problem. That is all about it. uh, all right, I think we have few more minutes. Shishti asks again, when it's guesstimation, how do you choose the top percentage? uh, I'm not quite clear about this question. Maybe Shristi, you can chat again. I mean, you can message again. I'm not clear about this. I'll move to the next one. During the interview, while solving product strategy question, what if I have very little knowledge about the particular sector? How to approach it at very instant? Very good question. So, the first slide, the first point that I talked about was, ask clarifying questions and make sure you and your interviewer are on same page. So even if somebody, let's say that you have no idea about how, let's say, Tesla works, and then interviewer says, hey, you are a Tesla PM and you have to improve the product. How do you go about it? Now, it's okay even if you don't have any idea about the particular industry or the product. You can actually ask the interviewer that, as I understand, this particular company is into XYZ. Is that correct? Right? It's absolutely okay even if you have no knowledge about the industry, because see, the underlying framework is same. It is not going to change. You have to think about customer, you have to think about their pain point, and like I said, make it conversational. Talk about your thought process, right? And even if you are going anywhere wrong, interviewer will correct you, and they will not judge you based upon that. They will judge you based upon how you are approaching the problem, and not about whether you know or you don't know about the industry. I will share the PDF. All right. While you are in interview, we hardly have time to think much. We really work. See, trust me, interviewer wants you to take time. When they give you a high level vague problem, they want you to take time. So please take time, structure your thought, ask questions, and then start solving the problem. Trust me, interviewer wants you to take time. So take, I mean, doesn't mean you take 5-10 minutes. You take 2-3 minutes, think about your thought process, and then tell the interviewer that that this is how I'm thinking about the problem, right? So make it more of a conversation rather than see, it is not about zero or one kind of a problem. There are not right answers. The only thing that they are looking for is your approach. So yeah. So yeah, I would recommend to make it more of a conversation while solving these problems. And we have one more question. When we have guesstimation question, we usually start with a guess number. Say 1.8 million is Indian population. How do we align in picking up this number? It does not matter. I mean, even if Delhi's population is, let's say, 18 million, and you think you assume 10 million, it does not matter, as long as your approach is correct. I mean, it's just a number, right? It's just an assumption for the heck of solving that problem. So it will not matter at all. But your approach will matter. The number will not. Yeah. All right. I think we are kind of done with questions. So thanks, guys. Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure talking to you guys and sharing my experience. And trust me, I mean, from my experience, I've realized great product managers are not born; they are made. And then Anybody can do it. It's just the matter of knowing the structure, the frameworks, and just practicing it, right? I mean, I mean, I mean, companies are looking for good PMs. There is dearth of good PMs, right? So practice it well, and I'm sure you'll end up and you'll actually ace PM interview. Cool. Albert, anything else? I think we are done.
Yeah. Thank you for the nice session. Maybe we can have a short Q&A if the participants has questions.
I think there was no further question. I had answered most of the questions.
Okay. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, please ask.
Yeah,
We
please.
are open.
If you still have some question, there are no dumb question. I mean, just ask. I mean, everybody start from zero. So just ask whatever if you feel like you have not asked. Don't be shy. I mean, okay, what books or courses? I think I have mentioned in one of the slides about a couple of books or podcasts or a lot of communities that are there, and I think communities like Insights also. I mean, see, when I was moving into product management, I found it really hard. You won't believe I failed first 20 interviews, right? Just to know what interviewer is looking for, because at that time there was no guidance. I mean, I'm talking about what, 6 years back. At that time there was no such community. I mean, right now the community is so good. I mean, people want to help. I mean, you want to look for mentors, go and ask. People will help you, right? I mean, there are a lot of forums like Insights or Product Star where you can listen to what people have to say. So this community help exists today. Back then, I had to fail in 20 interviews to realize what interviewer is looking for, right? And then I started cracking the other interviews. Well, Shrishti asks, how do you answer prioritization? See, Shrishti, okay, prioritization. There are some frameworks that you can use, but again, not necessary that you have to follow frameworks also. See, if you have to, as a company, or let's say you are a startup founder, if I'm a business guy and I tell you, hey, these are the 5 things that you can do, how would you pick, right? The most logical way to prioritize is to understand effort versus impact analysis. This is the most common framework, and it is logical also, right? So out of those 5 features, you know which feature will you pick? I mean, what is the impact? So impact could be in terms of business, or impact could be on customer experience. So I mean, just take a spreadsheet, write all those 5 features, and then write the impact. Right, that feature A gives me, let's say, 5% increment in revenue. Feature B gives me, let's say, retention by 30%. So you have to quantify. I mean, see, this is again not a hypothetical number. You have to quantify it, right? For example, if I let's say uh, let's say, um, let's take this Insights platform, right? if i build uh, if I build share, I mean, assuming there is no share feature, if I build share feature in Insights platform, the engagement would increase. So then you can do some quantification by how much amount engagement would increase, right? You can do some customer survey. You can ask people that, would you like to share? If there is a platform, if there is a webinar that has been announced on Insight, would you like to share? So you can ask 10 people, and then if 3 of them says yes, we would like to share, that means 30% customers hypothetically would want to engage, right? So then you can quantify that, 30% is people would like to engage with the platform, and bring more people on the platform. So using this approach, you can quantify and land up to a number that, this is the impact of this particular feature. And then effort would be, how much effort, in the sense, it could be engineering resource, right, that you will take to build this, and then you can compare. uh, how would you suggest to answer questions like, your North Star metric? How would you explain this to engineer? See, North Star metric is nothing but whatever feature you are building, right? What is the so what are you chasing, right? For example, let's say even the example that we took, if we are introducing share feature in Insights application, what is the North Star metric? I mean, I am probably, let's say, my North Star metric would be engagement, right? Engagement can then further be drilled down into number of shares, number of likes, right? Number of signups, right? So those North Star metric would be your engagement, and then you can drill it down. And then see, to an engineer, you need to talk more into specifics, right? So you cannot just tell him, hey, build this feature, it will increase engagement. No, you need to break down engagement into, by engagement, what exactly you mean. So maybe it could lead to more acquisitions, right? So maybe the guy needs to work on acquisition, or it could lead to more, likes or shares, right? And hence we need to build this share feature. So engineer just needs a visibility and the metric that we are trying to chase by building this feature, so that engineers can also give you a lot of ideas that probably we should implement some we should introduce some tags that we would want to measure, so that we can measure success of the product. So think of your engineer like a stakeholder, or like a co-founder of your company. I mean, as a PM, the mistake that we do is, we believe that we are the ones who talk to business and stakeholders. We tell engineers what to do, and their job is just to they are supposed to execute. It doesn't work like that. You have to think of them like a co-founder of your startup, right? You need to explain them why you are working on it, so that they should have end-to-end visibility, right? And then you would end up having a good relationship, and then you would be very successful as a product manager in your career. Cool. I think we have kind of answered all the questions. Thank you, guys. I think it was a really a pleasure talking to you guys and sharing my thoughts. And if you want to connect with me, I mean, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I would be happy to help. Cool. If you have any more questions, maybe you can give it to Zoe or Albert, and then I can answer them straight away. All right, Albert. I think
Yeah, so I think there are no more questions.
yeah.
Yeah, so Kundan, thank you for the nice session. It was very helpful for me, and I think it was helpful for the people here.